Is Josh Heupel the best offensive mind in college football? Pro Football Focus thinks he might be. I'm telling you he is. That and a whole lot more here on a Wednesday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it. Your Wednesday edition of Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys being here. Shout out every single dayers. Hashtag everydayers for making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Eric Kane, at _Caners, where you can find me and this show at Locked On Vols on Twitter. And we got a fun show to get into. Josh Heupel, best offensive mind in college football. I think he is. Joe Milton, could he be a preseason All-SEC quarterback? It sounds bizarre right now, but it could happen. And a quick recap of what happened for some Tennessee Vols in the Major League Baseball draft. That and a whole lot more here on a Wednesday show. Okay, so Pro Football Focus tweeted out earlier this week, is Josh Heupel the best offensive mind in college football? And I often refer to him as being the best or one of the best in college minds and offensive minds in college football. Certainly not greedy enough to think that there aren't other coaches who, know the offensive game plan or get great at creating some mismatches and stuff, that it only resides here in Knoxville, Tennessee. There's a lot of football teams out there, and there's a lot of coaches that have been doing this for a long time. But I do believe Josh Heupel stands atop a lot of them. Now, you can kind of break this down and make it your own. For me, what I look for in an offensive mind is points, yards, and explosive plays. And Tennessee, obviously, we've gone over the stats here in recent shows about Josh Heupel as a play caller in this league and as a head coach in 5 seasons, where his offenses have ranked in terms of total yards in the country and total points in the country. Last year, made a clean sweep of it. In 2022, Tennessee's offense was number 1 in scoring and number 1 in total offense. And so, for that reason, a lot of that has to come into scoring a lot, creating mismatches, and having explosive plays, something that was not here under the likes of Jeremy Pruitt in 3 years prior with Jim Chaney and some others. So Pro Football Focus puts out this tweet asking, is Josh Heupel the best offensive mind in college football? And they have some stats written down. This is Josh Heupel's plays of 40-plus yards since 2018, the rank in FBS, big time college football. So these are his rank. These are kind of where he ranks in the country in how many plays of 40-plus yards that he's had. While at Tennessee, in 2022, this past season, there were, and we talked about this a little bit last week in terms of the explosive plays, but there were 36 plays from Tennessee of 40 yards or more offensively. That ranked first in the country. Okay, probably. That's a whole lot of plays. Just think about this. 36 plays that went 40 yards or more. That's truly incredible. In 2021, there were 23 plays that went 40 yards or more, and that tied for 7th in the country, so top 10 there. Let's go back to UCF, okay? You're a step down. You're playing at a little bit of a lower competition week in and week out, okay? You don't have the 5 stars and the 4 stars and all that type of stuff, and the top, the on 300 players go to your program there. But while he was at UCF, in 2020, when it was a condensed season, mind you, Josh Heupel's offense had 24 plays that went over 40 yards. That was first in the country. Not bad. In 2019, he had 30 plays that went 40 yards or more. That was second in the country. Not bad. And then in 2018, he had 20 plays that went 40 yards or more, and that tied for 18th. So my point is, when I break down an offensive mind, it's all about creating mismatches. It's all about getting Jalen Hyatt lined up on a linebacker in the second quarter against Kentucky. I mean, that's game over, right? But, Jalen Hyatt was good. Jalen Hyatt had the Blitnikoff award-winning season, right? And he has speed. I'm not trying to take that away from him, but there's a reason Jalen Hyatt got wide open so many times. There's a reason why Cedric Tillman has been so good. I know he was injured this past season, but he was so good in 2021. Same with Velus Jones in 2021. You create mismatches by utilizing your player's strength and, diving into the film and sending guys in motion and, again, creating those mismatches. So we look at kind of what's going on here. And when I think of best offensive coaches in the country. A couple of them are head coaches, right? And a lot of them are offensive coordinators. And some of these, I'm gonna go back to 10 years ago, which were some of the hottest offensive coaching names out there. Urban Meyer, obviously not coaching right now, but known as a great offensive mind. Just like Brian Kelly, Urban Meyer is a horrible human being, just the scum of the earth in my opinion. But he was a really good offensive mind, and his little stint in the NFL with the Jacksonville Jaguars was hilarious because he thought he was bigger than the sport of football, and he was so bad, and the scandals, and it was great, and kicking the kicker, that whole situation. Anyway, I could go on and on about how Urban Meyer is just a complete disgrace, but he was a great offensive mind, and I gotta be honest with you, I'm not a big College Game Day fan anymore. It's too Disney for me, if you will. I like X's and O's and football talks. You know what I do? I'll watch Big Noon Kickoff, and Urban Meyer's on there, and he does a heck of a job breaking down the game of football. He's smart. So Urban Meyer was one of those coaches that you thought about being one of the best offensive minds, for a long time. Rich Rodriguez, he was currently the head coach at Jacksonville State. For the longest time, Rich Rodriguez was thought to be a great offensive mind. Here now, some of these head coaches, Lincoln Riley, he's more of a quarterback whisperer, if you will. Look at the quarterbacks he coached. I mean, the resume, it's not bare whatsoever. You can't say that Lincoln Riley doesn't know how to elevate and coach up a quarterback. And so he needs to be in this conversation, but does that mean he's the best offensive mind? Ryan Day, former offensive coordinator, obviously, before he has assumed the ranks of Ohio State for the last couple of years. And Ohio State's been pretty good. They put up stats. They've had good quarterbacks as well. Ryan Day deserves to be in this conversation. Jimbo Fisher for the longest time was in this conversation, but the last couple of years, I don't think so. And how much are you going to have a generational talent like Jameis Winston carry that flag for you on winning a national championship? But Jimbo Fisher used to be in this conversation. Tom Herman used to be in this conversation. R.I.P. Mike Leach. May he rest in peace. Times 10. He obviously innovator. There you go, is the word I'm looking for in the college game for the longest time. Lane Kiffin right now is thought to be one of the better offensive minds in college football, and he and Josh Heupel do a lot of the same things. What about some offensive coordinators that aren't head coaches right now but are doing a great job? Garrett Riley at Clemson, Jeff Levy at Oklahoma, coming from the Josh Heupel tree, also with Lane Kiffin a couple of years ago. Phil Longo, who was at Carolina for a couple of years. Now he's with Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. You have Andy Ludwig of Utah, and you have Ryan Grubb of Washington, a couple others that I wrote down. But any way you want to spin it, I view it as explosive plays, creating explosive plays. And the PFF tweet just kind of puts it out there for me. Again, I'm going to read these stats off for you. Josh Heupel plays of 40 yards or more since 2018 and where it ranks in FBS. 2022, number 1, 36 plays of such 40 yards or more. 2021, 23 plays, tied for 7th. At UCF in 2020, led the nation condensed season with 24 of those plays. 2019, 30 plays, that was 2nd in the country. And in 2018, 20 plays, that was tied for 18th in the country. Josh Heupel knows how to elevate quarterback play. Josh Heupel knows how to elevate those in his offense and use their strength, creating mismatches. And that is why I think Josh Heupel is the best offensive mind in college football right now. What say you? Would love to hear what you have to say about that, and we'll discuss it. I'll get your comments at _Caner and at Locked On Vols, and certainly on the YouTube channel if you want to put them there as well. When we come back, speaking of one of those quarterbacks that he's going to try to help elevate and get to where it needs to be, that's Joe Milton. Could Joe Milton be a preseason All-SEC quarterback, though? And now it sounds bizarre, but he could be. And I'll tell you that here in a moment right here on Locked On Vols. But hey, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting Major League Baseball on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets. That's up to $200. That's right, just bet $20 and you're going to land $200 in bonus bets, whether you win or lose. Not bad, right? That's $200 where you can spend betting on everything from the money line, the run line, the over-under total, to who you think's going to hit the first home run in the game, the first single, the first double, the first caught stealing. Prop bets are endless in Major League Baseball betting at FanDuel Sportsbook. It's all on an app that is safe, secure, super easy to use, and where you get paid instantly after you win. There's no better place to bet on Major League Baseball than over at FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. So today, go ahead and sign up by visiting FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, its official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, guys, I want to welcome you back here to Locked On Vols. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. If you haven't subscribed to Locked On Vols on the YouTube channel, I encourage you to do so. It really helps this show grow. And, of course, subscribe and follow. Hit subscribe, follow Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Odyssey app, wherever you get your podcasts. Really, really do appreciate it. Let's try to get to 8K by kickoff on the YouTube channel. That would be awesome. All right, so in the spirit of SEC Media Days coming up next week, and in the spirit of those representatives that we kind of talked about who will be representing their teams at SEC Media Days next week, I want to talk about preseason All-SEC accolades. All right, so you're seeing them some now, Athlon, Field Steel, all that type of stuff, kind of building up to SEC Media Days where you will get the media who vote on this. And being a media member who was voted on the preseason All-SEC teams the last couple of seasons, I got to tell you it's hilarious because, again, I say it all the time, preseason fourth team running back or wide receiver 2 or whatever. I'm pretty sure there's only 3 teams. I can't remember that we vote on, but they put out 3 teams in terms of the preseason by the media at SEC Media Days. So my question is, can Joe Milton be a preseason All-SEC quarterback? And it sounds bizarre, right? Because he played in mop-up duty. He made 2 starts last year. And of course, we remember Joe Milton to begin the 2021 season. We remember Joe Milton getting hurt and losing a starting job at Michigan as well, playing with an injured thumb. So it sounds a little bizarre for a guy that's not really a returning starter at the position that could be all conference. But hear me out here. So when we go in there, and again, it's all because you vote for numerous teams, 3 or 4 teams, and that's what makes this really interesting. But when you go in there, you're going to have either Jaden Daniels or KJ Jefferson likely to be your first and second team quarterbacks in the SEC voted on by the media, and they're deserving, right? I mean, you got KJ Jefferson, who last year threw for 2,636 yards. He had 24 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. It's pretty good. I think KJ Jefferson could always be better, right? But he's never been truly healthy. But Jaden Daniels is a good quarterback for LSU on a good team. He threw for just a shade under 3,000 yards, 17 touchdowns. Not a whole lot of touchdowns. Only turned it over 3 times. That's pretty decent. He's got some legs that can help him. He had 11 rushing touchdowns in 2022. So that's impressive. But when you're talking about returning quarterbacks and firepower in the SEC, I think those two, whether it's Daniels 1, Jefferson 1, the other one 2, whatever, they're going to be your top 2. So the question is, if you have 3 preseason teams, who's going to be that third team preseason quarterback? There's some pretty good candidates still on the board. Will Rogers, Mississippi State, Spencer Rattler, South Carolina. You, of course, have Devin Leary coming over from North Carolina State, NC State, who could be in this conversation. Carson Beck, Jackson Dart, Connor Wagman, and you got Joe Milton. But here's the thing. You vote on these on what you've done and what you've seen. You don't really vote on these in terms of being projections. So because of that, and someone DM'd me, I think it was Brian DM'd me earlier yesterday, and I couldn't agree more. It was during the Major League Baseball draft. I couldn't DM back. But you've got these projections, and Carson Beck, at least for Georgia, I think you're getting an upgrade at quarterback from a talent perspective and all that. Now, can he continue to improve like Stetson Bennett did and command the offense and be the team leader? I don't know. But from a physical standpoint, Carson Beck's probably a better quarterback than Stetson Bennett. And so you might be getting an upgrade there from a talent perspective, but that doesn't mean we should just throw him in there as preseason All-SEC quarterback. Why? Well, because he's never started a football game. We don't know. Connor Wagman got his taste of what SEC football was last year, right? Jackson Dart is another one that played an awful lot, and Jackson Dart actually, being the starter at Ole Miss last year, he threw for 2,900 yards, 2,974 yards. He had 20 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, so it wasn't great, but he got his taste of what SEC football was all about. Devin Leary, who I think the world of. Okay, and again, he had a down year, missed about half the season last year, but coming into the 2021 season, Devin Leary was on everybody's national board in terms of best quarterbacks, 5, 6, 7, respectively. He was top 10 quarterback. He was held in check last year in 6 games, a little over 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, completion percentage of only 61%, 55 QBR. So it was a down year. Obviously, he missed some time, okay? but what he did prior to 2022, it's pretty good. So we've seen what Devin Leary can do. I'm going to mention one more before we get to Joe Milton, of course. Will Rogers is another one that we need to discuss. I mean, the dude has been in college and been the starting quarterback at Mississippi State, I feel like, since the Reagan administration. He's been there forever. He was second in the conference last year in passing yards, right behind Stetson Bennett, 3,974 passing yards. He had, 35 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Hey, that ain't bad. That ain't bad at all. Again, he led the SEC in passing touchdowns with 35. Second was Bryce Young at Alabama, but of course he missed some time as well. But Will Rogers, all he does is just put up yards. And I'm curious to see how Will Rogers will be affected without Mike Leach this year. His system, his coaching, but more importantly, his system. It's going to change a little bit. Even if you try to, do the status quo and continue on a little bit, it's going to change a little bit with the Pirate not being there. May he rest in peace. So I'm curious to see how that affects Will Rogers. But if we're going on what we've seen, well, it's got to be Will Rogers, right? But here's Joe Milton. Curious case. We've seen Joe Milton play. Okay, he's no stranger. He's not a guy that's not started any games in Power 5. In fact, he started multiple games in 2 Power 5 conferences. It hadn't always been great, sure. But last year, in 2 starts and in mop-up duty for one of the best teams in the country, Tennessee, Joe Milton looked good. 971 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, no interceptions, 85.8 QBR, and his completion percentage was at 64.1%, and that is easily the highest of his career. 64.6%, actually. Again, smaller sample size, I recognize that. But if you want to go back to 2021, where it was even smaller sample size, 51.6% completion. Go back to 2020, 56.7% completion. And then, of course, and he didn't play hardly in 2019 and 2018, but it was 42%, and he completed 3 or 4 passes as a true freshman in 2018 at 75%. But anyway, easily looked better in terms of accuracy than he has at all, and that was last year. Again, mop-up duty, but 971 yards with 2 starts and 2 pretty big starts, right? I mean, you were coming off a horrible loss at South Carolina. Vanderbilt was rolling. They just beat Florida, and you had to win that game on the road, and Tennessee, of course, blew them out. But obviously the New Year's Six Bowl game and the Orange Bowl against Clemson, he looked really good. But 971 yards, 10 touchdowns, no interceptions. So my point is, if there are 3 preseason All-SEC teams, and Jaden Daniels and KJ Jefferson are quarterbacks 1 and 2 in some order, why not Joe Milton to be that third guy? SEC fans know who he is. SEC fans have seen him. And you have a better taste in your mouth about Joe Milton from last year than you have any memories of him at Michigan or in a Tennessee uniform in 2021. So my thing would be, I think it's easy, slam dunk. If you're going 3 teams, Will Rogers has got to be your third team, quarterback. Spencer Rattler's also in this conversation. I didn't even really mention him earlier. And of course, he had a great end of the season. But Spencer Rattler, let me find him. He threw for over 3,000 yards, 3,026 yards. He had 18 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Still too many turnovers, but he would be in this conversation. But it's a slam dunk for me. It is Will Rogers because it's on what we've seen, right? Not projecting, it's on what we've seen. But if it's not Will Rogers, you can make the case for Devin Leary, sure, but he's coming over from the ACC. It's probably Joe Milton. It's probably Joe Milton if you were going to go 4 deep in this preseason accolade list. So anyway, Joe Milton's getting hyped up. Tennessee's getting hyped up. Joe Milton, can you handle the hype? I think he can, but he is the undisputed leader of this football team. He is ready. I think he's improved. I do, and I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in year 3 of this Josh Heupel system, who, as we mentioned in segment 1, probably the best offensive mind in the country right now. So could Joe Milton be a preseason All-SEC quarterback? I think he could. My vote would probably go to Will Rogers, but I think he could certainly if you are projecting what Joe Milton will do, though. Again, preseason all about what you've done. If you're projecting, well, Joe Milton, if everything goes well, he could be the best quarterback in the league this year. So we will have to see. And, of course, he could parlay that into a top 10 pick. So we will just have to see. Something to think about. Let me know your thoughts. @_Caner at Locked On Vols. All right, when we come back, let's take a quick little recap. What happened with Tennessee Volunteers in the Major League Baseball draft? I'll tell you all you need to know on the other side right here on Locked On Vols. All right, guys, welcome back into Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget to come back tomorrow for some more Locked On Vols. We'll continue to talk football. We'll have a conversation with Mike Wilson of Knox News, and going to be a good show. So you everydayers, looking forward to tomorrow. And if you want to be an everydayer, well, come back tomorrow and you'll find out what it's all about. All right, quick recap. The Major League Baseball draft came to an end on let's see here. Today's Wednesday, so Tuesday afternoon, and the first round Sunday night took forever, but boy, Monday and Tuesday flew by. Rounds 3 through 10 on Monday and rounds 11 through 20 on Tuesday, and they absolutely flew by. Tennessee, in conclusion, Tennessee Volunteers had 8 picks in the 2023 Major League Baseball draft. That was second in the SEC to LSU's 13. Arkansas, Texas A&M, and Vanderbilt all had 7. 6 pitchers. There were 6 of the 8 players who were drafted were pitchers for the University of Tennessee, and the 6 pitchers were drafted were the most in program history. Back in 1992 and 1996, Tennessee had 5 pitchers drafted in those respected Major League Baseball drafts. But essentially, I'll tell you exactly who all was drafted. Well, I'll tell you right now, and then we'll get to the nitty-gritty. What you had was Chase Dollander, of course, went top 10, 9th overall Sunday night to the Colorado Rockies. The Rockies, big-time ball fans, that they are, because a couple of rounds later, they took Seth Halverson in the 7th round, with the 202nd pick overall. So anyway, Chase Dollander kicked things off, a top 10 pick, number 9 overall to the Rockies on Sunday night. On Monday, in the 4th round, a Tennessee commit, Carson Rucker, he was drafted. He's the younger brother of Jake Rucker, VFL, third baseman, shortstop, but more third base. He got drafted in the 4th round at 107th overall. His slot value was at about, I believe, or his ranking coming in was like 132. So what happened here is the Tigers picked above his ranking, meaning essentially they're going to pay him more, and so essentially, he'll probably be gone and start his professional career. So congrats to him. I would not expect at this time that Carson Rucker will be on campus for Tennessee, but he was a high school commit. So again, Dollander went 9th overall in the 1st round. Carson Rucker, a high school commit, went in the 4th round. Shortstop Maui Ahuna was drafted by the Giants in the 4th round, pick number 117. Right-handed pitcher Andrew Lindsay was selected by the Marlins in round 5. Pick 146 overall. Seth Halverson, I mentioned earlier, by the Rockies in the 7th round, pick 202. And then here's the thing about Jared Dickey. Okay, he was drafted in the 11th round, pick 319 overall. So Jared Dickey, by Major League Baseball Pipeline, his prospect ranking coming into the draft was number 115. That's about the 4th round range, number 115. Late 3, early 4. And he got an invitation to the Major League Baseball Combine. That was, he and Maui and Lindsay, I believe, and those 3 went, got home from Omaha, and the next day they flew out to Arizona where they started the season, and they were taking part of the MLB Combine. Point being, you don't get invited to the MLB Combine if you're not thought to be, a top 6 round, 6-7 round guy. Especially more 1, 2, 3. So. He was a prospect. He was expected to be picked around round 3 or round 4. He continued to slide, and he slid out of the top 10 rounds. And how the Major League Baseball draft works, for the top 10 rounds, there is a slot value assigned to that pick. Meaning, if you are the 15th pick of the 5th round, whatever overall pick that is, this is how much that pick is worth. And so teams, if you don't sign that player, you lose that from your bonus pool of money. It's a deeper conversation. We don't have time for it here today on Locked On Balls. But essentially, if you draft somebody in the top 10 rounds, you want to sign them. Because if you're not, you're going to lose that money that's assigned to the slot value. So as teams continue to pass on Jared Dickey, essentially, you have a price in mind. The Dickey camp has a price in mind. And I think teams just kind of, as the draft went on Monday, rounds, 6, 7, 8, they're like, okay, well, I'm not going to pay that. And so early in day 3, when there's no value assigned to any pick, a team like the Royals, who ended up drafting him, can overpay him and make him a priority sign, essentially. And so that's what happened. It was a tough day for Jared Dickey. You hate it, but that's kind of the business aspect of the Major League Baseball draft. And that's something I'm still being educated on. I worked rookie ball for 2 summers, broadcasting that in Kingsport, Tennessee a couple of summers ago, and I got a little taste of it then, but I got really educated over the last couple of weeks, essentially doing this for the first time, covering baseball for VolQuest.com. But that's the business side of it. Tough day for Jared Dickey on Monday, but a good day for him. He got picked the 5th pick in the 11th round, the 5th pick of the day on Tuesday, and Jared Dickey is going to the Royals. Round 11, pick number 319. Ryan Galaney, I'll get to him in a little bit of a moment, but he got selected by the White Sox in round 13. Zach Joyce, Jake Fitzgibbons, and Bryce Jenkins all got selected as well. Interesting, Zach Joyce, twin brother Ben Joyce, who's already made his Major League Baseball appearance this year, his debut, picked in the 14th round by the Angels. So, in my opinion, things can change, and we'll have to continue to follow this in the days that come and see who signs and everything. But in my opinion, Zach Joyce is going to start his professional career because, hey, his twin brother is already pitching there. That's just my opinion. Jake Fitzgibbons, who actually entered the transfer portal to leave Tennessee when the window opened, he got selected by the Diamondbacks in round 14. And then Bryce Jenkins, first year on Rocky Top in 2023, spent a couple seasons at Cleveland State Community College. The Mets selected him in the 17th round. So 8 selections overall, 1 high school commit that I highlighted in Carson Rucker, and then a transfer portal commit from Wofford, Ryan Galaney. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Ryan Galaney. A lot of times, the player and the team already have a price agreed on when you get drafted. That could be the case here. I don't know. But he slid out of the top 10 round, so that was a good thing for Tennessee. No, not necessarily for him, but for Tennessee. And then as day 3 started, he made it all the way to the 13th round, and that's where he got picked by the Chicago White Sox. So when I spoke with Ryan Galaney last week, kind of heading into the draft, he just said essentially, hey, I don't want to be taken advantage of. If they offer me something, and whatever team he's, forecasting, so if they offer me something and I think it's good, I'm going to go because I'm 23 years old and I need to start my professional career. He played 4 years at Wofford, guys. But if I feel like they're taking advantage of me, then I have a great landing spot. I'm going to come back here to Tennessee. I'm going to play my 5th year, and then I'm going to do it again next year. He has a little bit of leverage right now when deciding kind of what he wants to do. Next year in the draft process, he won't have any leverage at all. And he will not be a top 10 pick, likely, top 10 round pick, unless he just has an incredible season because of the age factor there. So we will have to see what happens with Ryan Galaney. Day 2 of the Major League Baseball draft for Tennessee was great. Day 3 was okay. You probably, lost Jared Dickey, and you're happy for him. You are. It was tough for Jared Dickey on day 2. You knew it was. But, we'll see. But in terms of high school commits, you only lost 1 right now. Only 1 was drafted, and that's Carson Rucker, and he's probably gone. The rest of those guys are going to be on campus for Tennessee, some big-time high school prospects who will compete, arguably maybe if you don't get Luke Holman from Alabama for that 3rd starter role, but also for some bullpen reps as well. So 8 players for Tennessee, 1 high school commit, 1 transfer portal commit. The draft is over, but as the days go on, we'll have to pay attention to see who signs. Will Bryce Jenkins elect to come back to college, or will he sign with New York? Zach Joyce, will he elect to sign with the Angels or come back to college? Ryan Galaney as well. We'll have to pay attention to that one big time. Also, going to have to pay attention to guys like Zane Denton, who was not drafted, has a COVID year left to play if he wants it, or will he sign a priority undrafted free agent deal and go ahead and begin his professional career? We will see. All that right here on Locked On Vols, and of course over at VolQuest.com. But Tony Vitello, again, he had 7 players drafted in 2021, a program record 10 players drafted in 2022, and 8 players drafted in 2023. Not bad for Tony Vitello, as the Tennessee baseball team continues to be one of the most efficient and popular teams in all of college baseball. That's going to do it here for this edition of Locked On Vols. Can't thank you enough. We'll come back for an awesome show on Thursday. Again, if you haven't already, please subscribe to Locked On Vols on the YouTube channel, wherever you get your podcast, and we'll do it again tomorrow, guys. Appreciate you guys as always. This is Locked On Vols.